Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you to name the two baseball rookies to win both Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year. The correct answers are Boston's Fred Lynn in 1975 and Seattle's Ichiro Suzuki in 2001. Now, Chris Drabik will be discussing some early favorites for this year's Heisman Trophy. Chris?
We are just on the verge of Week 6 in the college football season, but it is never too early to break down this year's Heisman hopefuls. Before the year started, college football experts were all but giving the Heisman Trophy to USC Trojans quarterback Matt Barkley, with an outside chance from two bruising running backs, Wisconsin's Monty Ball and South Carolina's Marcus Lattimore. Despite the preseason predictions, we have seen these early Heisman favorites plummet out of the picture, leaving the race wide open for a few well-experienced quarterbacks putting up eye-popping numbers while leading their teams to victories. West Virginia Mountaineer quarterback Geno Smith has emerged as an early season favorite, thanks in large part to his big right arm and the two stud wide receivers he has at his arsenal. Smith and the Mountaineer offense are white hot heading into conference play, fresh off of a 70-63 shootout victory over Baylor 2 weeks ago. In that game, Smith was 45 for 51 passing for 656 yards through the air and 8 touchdown passes. Those video game-like numbers, combined with an impressive 1,728 passing yards, 20 touchdown passes, and 0 interceptions on the season, have skyrocketed Geno Smith to the top of the Heisman leaderboard. But by no means is the Heisman Trophy in the bag for Smith, because this year has truly proven to be the year of the quarterback in college football. Plenty of quarterbacks have been making their cases while keeping pace with Smith, including Kansas State's Colin Klein, Clemson's Taj Boyd, and Florida State's E.J. Manuel. These three have been getting it done so far for their teams by displaying veteran leadership and a genuine playmaking ability when the game is on the line. Boyd and Manuel have a very similar playing style, using their big arms to find their playmakers while still possessing the mobility to make plays with their feet both in the pocket and out in space. Both have just under 200 rushing yards with 1 touchdown apiece, yet Boyd's passing numbers surpass Manuel's. Colin Klein, on the other hand, is a leader of a Kansas State squad that may not be the most talented, but can put it together on Sundays to win ball games. Klein is much more reliant on making plays with his feet, picking up huge chunks of yards on design quarterback runs, while also being capable of making plays with his arm. Klein has even drawn a slight comparison to Tim Tebow in this respect. He has solid passing numbers to go along with 289 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. These three seniors are a combined 13-1 on the season and will most certainly be in the Heisman picture if they continue their high level of play. Of course, underclassmen Braxton Miller of Ohio State, Aaron Murray of Georgia, and Taylor Martinez of Nebraska are players to watch as well. If these young quarterbacks lead their teams to their respective conference championship games, then there is a very good chance they also find an invitation to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation in their mailbox at the end of the year. Unfortunately, not everyone has the privilege of raising the bronze trophy at the end of the year. As of today, who would you name as the early favorite to win the Heisman Trophy?
Well, I think you said it. It's got to be Geno Smith, at least at this point. So far, what he's shown, over 1,700 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, and the most impressive stat, perhaps, of all, 0 interceptions through the first few weeks. And, I mean, in the last segment, we were talking about quarterbacks and how turnovers is the name of the game. 0 interceptions has been getting the job done for West Virginia. It's got to go to Geno Smith at this point.
I think it's pretty ironic that our last segment was all about how you don't need a quarterback, and pretty much every Heisman candidate that you just named is all quarterback. But, I mean, this is college. It's completely different. But, I mean, this is perfect timing to be having this discussion and anointing Geno Smith as your Heisman hopeful and probably Heisman winner as of right now. I mean, he just came off an 8-touchdown game against Baylor. That's unheard of. He threw for over 650 yards, and this will probably change week after week. I mean, we know how much of everything fluctuates in all of sports, but right now it's really hard to argue against Geno Smith.
Yeah, I mean, 656 yards and 8 touchdowns. Some guys don't put that up over 3 games. So those video game numbers are basically what's put him at the top so far. But like you said, college football, and especially the Heisman race, is ever-changing, and I'm sure the next time we do one of these, he'll be out of the picture and 5 new guys will be there. But as of right now, you got to give it to Geno Smith.
Yeah, and just one thing touching on, of course, the big game, that does skew his season numbers just a little bit. So you've got to imagine that the committee will be taking that into account when they go and vote for the final ballot, if he's on it at the time still. But just the fact that he's able to put up those kind of numbers in a big game against a good top 25 program like Baylor, it's awfully impressive.
And to counter your argument a little bit, it was in one game, but they were necessary. It was a close game, so it's not like he built up those stats in a blowout game. They won by 7 points, so you can make the argument that every one of those 8 touchdowns that he threw for was the difference in the game.
And I mean, I guess to kind of veer away from the quarterbacks, a guy I like to maybe make a rise at the end of the season is DeAnthony Thomas from Oregon. His team's number 2 in the polls right now, and they have a big game against USC late in the year. You never know if Geno Smith and Colin Klein and guys like that kind of drop off, and DeAnthony Thomas is a big game against USC. We could definitely see him not only in New York, but maybe the winner is the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, and you mentioned Matt Barkley and Monty Ball earlier on. Do you see those guys maybe inserting themselves back into the discussion later on the season if they can kind of turn it around, or if Geno Smith or Colin Klein ends up coming down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like we said, you never know what's going to happen in college football, but just as DeAnthony Thomas has the big game at USC, Matt Barkley has the big game against Oregon. So if guys like him and, like I said, Monty Ball, Marcus Lattimore, if they kind of come out at the end of the season, I mean, we saw Monty Ball score 39 touchdowns last year, so we know he can find the end zone at basically any point in the game. So if guys like that, enter conference play and start having big game after big game, we could definitely see them in the picture.
All right, well, we'll be back with more Lions lineup right after this.